welcome back to part 16 of this OC story, where I invent things and you guys vote for what happens next, and between us, we cobble together a story. Yes, I am still trying to turn it into a book. Yes, I will try to record it on audio for you as well, and yes, I will be doing art, etc., etc. Alright, let's dive back in. So Erasmus and Darrow are in the kitchen, the grubby, greasy, grotty kitchen of this house they are supposed to be robbing. But only 2 out of the 4 candlesticks found, and a creature entered the room. It was rotten, hunched over, looking like it was everything and nothing all at once. Odd shapes, humanoid inasmuch as it had 2 legs and something akin to eyes, but everything else was a blur of dark shapes and shadows. As they looked at it, the creature told them to get on their knees. Which of course they did not. Darrow kept his eyes fixed on the creature and told Erasmus to try the back door behind them, to try the window, to try to find any way out, while he distracted the creature. Moving slowly, carefully, Erasmus did so. He backed up into the stuffy, rusty kitchen door and tried the handle. Of course, the door was locked. There was no key. Everything had rusted solid. There was a cat flap he found with the back of his foot, and it did open, but it was far too small for either of them to fit through. He edged around behind Darrow, who was standing with both blades drawn, staring at the advancing creature, moving slowly towards them with what looked like a clawed hand outstretched. Erasmus climbed haphazardly onto the work surface, fighting past layers of grime and grit and that disgusting blue fuzzy mould. He shoved at the windows, pulled at the bars, but they would not budge. "Darrow, we can't get out." The assassin gritted his teeth. "Right then, fuck it." Holding his blades aloft, Darrow advanced, and Erasmus jumped down from the worktop and came to join him. Pulling out his own blade, he joined Darrow at the shoulders. When they reached the creature, they gave each other a nod, and, with Darrow shouting instructions every now and then, they pounced. They fought and attacked as best they could together, not quite seamless, not quite moving in fluidity, but they were listening. They were in sync enough. Darrow occasionally shouting things like up, there, no, down, duck, cover, etc. It worked, for the most part. You could definitely see the training paying off, at least, every moment they had spent with the assassin telling the prince as much as he could about his own craft. The prince was certainly not a full-fledged criminal yet, but he was getting there, as Darrow had no doubt told him many times. The creature shrieked and yelled, but nothing they were doing seemed to be working. They were striking blows, but they didn't seem to hit properly, as though the creature was made of layers and layers of soft things and hard things, but nothing that felt like flesh. While they were landing blows, they were not damaging it in any way. The assassin's eyes grew narrowed as he dived beneath swollen legs, clawed nails digging into him as he ducked and dived. There was no blood coming from it, as if the flesh was hidden deep, deep inside. Ah, shit! He was caught, then. Caught in 2 of the clawed hands, or what would generously be called hands. They were long, elongated fingers, grubby nails digging down through his clothes into his skin as it pulled him closer. Erasmus dived, but he was grabbed too, and suddenly they were being dragged out of the kitchen. Kicking, flailing, stabbing as hard as they could. Darrow sometimes felt like he caught something like flesh, but his blades wouldn't get to it properly. There was too much in the way, too much movement, as they were dragged on and on, across the kitchen tiles, around the corner, and then through that door, into the dark, gloomy living room. They saw the armchairs. They saw piles and piles of more things, just stuff everywhere. They saw the dead fire in the dead grate. And then They saw the carpet, the rug drawn back. The creature kicked it aside in one slow arc, and then there was a pit. Splintered floorboards looking down, down, down into black nothingness. Wait! But the assassin could do nothing. The prince could do nothing. With another shriek, they were dropped down into the pit. They land, slam, onto cold, hard stone. It is so dark that they can only just make out the patch of light above them. Another screaming shriek, a scratch of nails, and the carpet is replaced above them, leaving them in utter blackness. They stumble around, standing, struggling to find each other, hobbling as they grasp onto each other's hands, touching each other's faces, making sure they're both still there. Slow, panting breaths as they question, "Are you alright? Are you alright?" They're fine, it turns out. Battered, bruised, scraped, bloodied, but fine. They start to peer around in the gloom. There's something further away at the far end. It's flickering, some sort of light. They struggle towards it. Crack! Erasmus lifts his foot and screams. What did I just stand on? Darrow crouches. I don't think you want to know. Just tell me. It's bones. Of course it's bones. Of course they've been dropped into a pit in some sort of monster's lair, and of course there are bones at the bottom. They fumble around, feeling, and there's so many more. Bones scattered, littered everywhere, and skulls that tell them these bones do not just belong to animals. There are a few, here and there. Rats, deer, rabbits, dogs, cats. But most of them are humanoid. Some have horns, perhaps they are creatures of other descent, but humanoid. And then they hear it. A bubbling noise. That's all for the moment. A very steady blip, blip, blip. It's liquid, it's bubbles. And they move towards it, as it's the only thing they can think to do now. Stepping, cracking over bones as they go. And they find a vast pot. The light they could see flickering as the flames underneath it, keeping it bubbling, boiling hot. The liquid inside is a brownish broth. Some sort of vegetable is in it, some sort of seasoning too. It doesn't smell rank, but it is at the same time rancid. And slowly, as they look around, the firelight illuminates more. There's bones, there's bits of flesh, and, horrifyingly, there are hooks, dangling on chains from the ceiling, where old bits of meat still hang, being stored. And it is definitely not animal. No. Darrow grabs Eerie around the waist and holds him tight. No, I am not fucking dying like this. And nor are you. We're getting the fuck out. I don't care how, we're doing it. They pick their way carefully around the pot, staring into the dark. But then, another noise starts. It's not as loud as the bubbling, at least at first, but then, as it draws nearer, slowly, it begins to drown it out. A scraping of long, talon-like nails, harsh, ragged breaths, or what could be breaths, and the dragging dragging of more layers of... Is it skin? Is it blanket? Is it mold festering, baked in something? They're not sure, and they don't have time to really check, as a creature comes at them with knives and a ladle. Screaming out of the shadows, it lurches towards them, staggering on its feet, blinking white eyes. It can't see very well. As one, they both strike. Two sets of blades come slamming down onto the creature's outstretched arm. It shrieks and howls, and something black and gooey oozes out of the spot where it is left. The arm hits the floor with a wet splatter, and they both realise it can bleed after all. Diving in, they continue. The fight is messy, sloppy, all over the place, uncoordinated, unchoreographed, but still, they finally get the upper hand as they realise that the creature cannot see them very well. The further they push it towards the light, the more it has to blink and shield away. The more it peers into the dark, the more they must dive out of sight, as it seems to be able to make them out better in the gloom. Erasmus pours himself on top of the creature, hauling at it, trying to bare its throat for the assassin. Darrow comes at it, both blades raised, ready to strike down and slice it through the throat. But then the creature's other arm swings in a wide bout. It catches the assassin across the jaw and sends him flying backwards. He staggers, holding onto the edge of the cauldron pot, bubbling over. Ah! He screams as it burns into his skin, but he runs back. Erasmus still tugging on the creature's... Is it skin? Is it face? Is it hair? Is it clothing? He cannot tell, and he does not want to ask, as the assassin launches himself in for the final gulp, slamming his blade into the creature's mouth, but then before he can drive it home, the creature shoves him, all its might, flinging them both forwards, and this time the assassin does not hit the cauldron. He does not hit the bubbling pot. He is thrown over and into it, toppling backwards, slamming shoulder first into the bubbling liquid. He yells, catching out of the edges of the pot, burning his hands, singeing his skin as he tries to heave himself back out of the mess. And at this moment, Prince Erasmus strikes. Seizing the blade the assassin had left buried in the creature's jaw, he drags it out and slams it home while it makes its final shriek. Through the throat, up and into the skull, and he twists. And the creature drops bodily backwards onto the stone floor with a hard slam, and the prince is buried beneath it. The assassin heaves himself out of the cauldron, panting and gasping and grunting under his breath, teeth bared and gnashed as he breathes hard and staggers over to where he thought he saw the creature disappear. "Iri! Iri!" he calls into the dark, and the voice that comes back to him is very, very quiet. "I'm under here! I'm under here! Darrow!" Slowly, carefully, he manages to tug the creature off Iri, and they both collapse gently onto the floor and sit breathing very hard for several long minutes. Once the winded prince has his breath back enough, he turns to Darrow, immediately cupping the man's face. "Are you all right? You fell in there, are you hurt? Let me see." He begins pulling at the assassin's cloak, desperate to see the skin of his back, horrified to imagine what it must look like. That water was boiling, after all. But then he notices something. As the layers of clothes are pulled up and away, Darrow hears the prince, and he says, "Darrow, you are glowing again." The assassin is beyond confused, turning his head, trying to look, but he can't see anything from this angle. "What? But I sure as shit ain't happy right now." The prince managed a small laugh at that. "Well, regardless, my love, you are glowing. It's just here, though. Nowhere else." And the assassin felt the prince's soft hands run down his back. "Are you feeling all right? It definitely doesn't look as bad as I thought." Yeah, feels alright actually. I was wearing a lot of clothes, maybe it was fine. Kinda hurt in the moment, but it's faded now. That's good. I was so worried. Well, it's not going to be as bad as my face, is it? I don't think they were cooking with magical fire, darling. Yeah, still. Could have been worse. Yes, that's true. It could have been worse. Am I still glowing? The prince peered closer. No, it seems to have stopped now. Perhaps it was healing you. Perhaps you have magical healing glowing powers. Oh, don't be ridiculous. The assassin pulled his clothes back on, shrugging his shoulders. He gave the prince a small kiss on the cheek and then helped him to stand. Right, better find a way out of this place then. I don't reckon we can reach the way we came in, so... Have a look for stairs, another door. Must be a way for the creature thing to get down, right? Yes. Alright, let's have a look, but stay close. Of course, always. So they set off together around the edges of the room, feeling carefully along the walls for any sign of a door or hidden entrance and exit. Eventually, they find themselves in a far corner of this dungeon-like room. There are no windows down here, it is simply a pit under the ground. But they do find a set of stone stairs, tight and curled up in the corner. They follow them hurriedly, and they reach a door. It's small, as though upstairs you would miss it while you were walking past it. It's made of heavy set wood with metal bars, and when they try the handle, it, of course, is locked. Darrow throws his weight into it, tries to pick it, but it will not budge. They cannot get out of this door. They stand with their backs to it, breathing hard in irritation as they look around and try to think. Perhaps the creature has a key on its person, Erasmus suggests. Oh, fuck, we're gonna have to go rummaging through it. Well, it might be our only choice. Yeah, I know. Alright, let's give it a go. Darrow reluctantly leads the way. They head back down the stairs and over towards the creature. They turn it onto its back, and as they examine it, they start to realize it is almost human. There are so many elements of it they can't ignore. It must be partly, or at least once upon a time, was human. The body is roughly the right size, older, decrepit, bent and twisted in gnarled shapes, but still, it even has a belly button. But the limbs have elongated. The feet, the toes, the hands. They look at the arm discarded on the floor they'd chopped off. It's definitely something human-ish. They think they see the vague outline of some sort of old tattoo. A flower of some sort. Something you could see in any tattooist's shop window. The nails are so long and so thick, they haven't been cut for years. And as they begin to pull away at the creature, they realize why they were unable to stab through at it completely. It had melded with the things on its back. Blankets, rugs, boxes, papers, pens, old bits of food and cookery, wire and net, even what looked like pieces of sofa cushion. It had all melted together like some sort of glue, as if the creature had just acquired more of it, and built up and up like a shell of odds and ends, assortments, creating its own armour-like cocoon, a second, third, fourth, and fifth skin. No wonder they couldn't stab through to it very easily. After several minutes of fruitless rummaging, they come up short. How is it this creature's got half the fucking house on its back, but it ain't got one bloody key? I don't know. But then, Darrow, if the door is locked, and this creature does not have a key, there must be another one. Both pairs of eyes flick towards the stairs and the door, as just at that moment, they hear the key turn in the lock. I would like you all to know that I very nearly left this story there, but I had some more ideas, so I'm carrying on. You're welcome. They stand frozen, staring at each other. The assassin's brain is moving a mile a minute. The world seems to be crashing in around him. Something hurts. Having ideas in this moment hurts. He can feel his whole life swimming before his eyes. He shakes it off as he tries to focus and think. There's always a way out. Always, even if it means fighting, even if it means you're seen, you have to. And it comes to him. Fight. Of course. They've taken down one, they can do it again. Silently, he pulls the prince's hand over to follow him. He crouches down at the very foot of the spiral staircase and motions to the prince to crouch on the opposite side. He points up towards the door and raises his blade. Erasmus does the same, nodding. And they wait and wait. The key clicks, the lock unlocked. The door swings open. The light upstairs is so dim it makes almost no difference to those downstairs. And they wait. They wait for those cracked nails to tap down the stone steps. But instead, they hear nothing. Nothing at all. Not a sound, not a movement. Not even the ragged breath of the creature. No blankets, no items, no odds and ends dragging on the floor. They wait. Is it mocking them? Is the creature standing in the doorway waiting for them to make their attack? But then, suddenly, they see 2 feet appear on the bottom set of steps. 2 feet. Small, human feet. Delicate feet. Wearing pale cream ballet slippers. They stare as a human girl in a simple smock dress tiptoes her way down the stairs, silent as a breeze. And as she lands on the bottom, she peers around, spotting them both.
Oh good! I was so hoping you would still be alive.
The look the assassin shoots to the prince across their crouched position on the floor is one of mingled shock, horror, amusement, and absolute confusion. He slowly rises to his feet, both blades still held in his hands. Erasmus rises too, and as the little girl, who cannot be older than 13, turns to face him, and then turns back to the assassin, blue eyes watch as Erasmus pulls his scarf up to cover most of his face. Darrow notices this, but doesn't say anything. He still has the mask firmly about his own face as well. And once he is fully risen, blade still in hands, he eyes the girl up and down, as she seems to do the same to him.
I think we should probably go now. The other one's asleep upstairs. Come on.
And without another word, she turns and tiptoes back up the stairs the way she came. She's holding the key in her hands, and without any other ideas, the pair follow her. As they follow on, they notice that she makes no sound as she tiptoes and tiptoes and tiptoes up and up the stairs, across onto the floor, through rugs, across creaking floorboards, nothing. Every time they make an ear on the floor, they have to watch their step, catching each other, edging around. But she does not. She walks perfectly happily down the middle of the hallway and turns to go up the stairs. The door, it transpires, comes out just beneath the stairs. They had not noticed it when they had first edged their way down that corridor. It truly blended right in with the rest of the paper and crumbling house. Slowly, following the girl, they go round and up the stairs, and out through the same window they entered by. The next time they speak is when they're standing in the street looking back at the house, having gone out of the window, back down the side and over the wall. They watch, almost as if waiting to see the house do something. Something shriek, something cry, to burn down, but no. It lingers on, and slowly they back away down the street. Night has truly fallen by this time. In fact, soon the dawn will rise. Darrow begins heading back towards the tavern, but Eerie grabs his hand to stop him. Perhaps we should go somewhere else. She will know where to find us if we go back there. Darrow nods, but then spots some guards walking down another street, and he pushes both the other two into a side alley as they wait for the guards to pass. I know you're right, but I don't think we've got many choices right now. I don't fancy getting caught by, well, anyone who might be looking for us. He gives the prince a meaningful look at this point. The prince nods reluctantly, inwardly trying to decide which would be worse, being caught by guards or caught by criminals. He honestly cannot decide. And so, somewhat reluctantly, they head back to the tavern with the girl in tow. She tells them, once they're sitting with the door firmly shut behind them, that her name is Tinny. Erasmus still has his scarf up covering his face, and he sits on the bed furthest away from her as she perches on the floor, cross-legged and looking up at the two expectantly. Darrow is still suspicious. He asks her, "Who are you working for then? You been sent? You know who I am?"
No, I've got no idea,
she says with a bright smile.
I just like to explore. I don't get to go out much. And I saw you hanging around outside the old house, so I followed you. It looked like fun, and you looked like you were doing something really suspicious.
Blue eyes look at her. Darrow is still unsure. You don't work for anyone then?
I'm a child. Who would I be working for?
I was younger than you when I started working for the shittest of people. So, I'm asking you again. Who do you work for? And if you don't, where'd you come from?
I don't work for anyone, silly. I just like to sneak around and explore the city. I don't get to explore during the daytime, so I like to sneak out at night.
Oh yeah? Darrow still hadn't put his blades away. You got no way to prove that though. And I gotta trust you. Got a lot at stake right now. She isn't working for anyone, Darrow. Don't worry. A soft hand touches his shoulder. How can you be sure? Darrow asks. Because she isn't even a commoner, much less a criminal. Erasmus does not sit and join them. He stands, hand at Darrow's shoulder, holding close, as he looks down at Tinny and says, "And her name is Princess Augustine." And that is where we're going to leave it for today. I have a question for you guys to vote your answers in the comments, and it's a very simple one. All I need is a yes or a no. Your question is, did Princess Augustine recognize Prince Erasmus? Has she known who he is this whole time? The answer can be yes or no. Let me know in the comments down below. Did she recognize Prince Erasmus? Yes or no? And I will see you next time for the next bit of the story. See you later.